All right there, everyone. The left-wing insanity against Brett Kavanaugh is red-pilling Americans. That's what we'll be talking about on today's video. If this is your first time here on this channel, a very, very warm welcome to you. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It'll be a privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel where we analyze current events in light of conservative trends so that you can personally and professionally flourish. So I'm sure many of you are following the absolute and utter insanity that has been unleashed by the left-wing Democratic Party. If you ever wanted to know the kind of bizarre worldview that is secular, liberal, globalist progressivism, you need look no further than what the Democrats are doing, or at least attempting to do, to Brett Kavanaugh. Of course, Brett Kavanaugh was President Trump's pick to fill the Supreme Court seat vacated by Judge Anthony Kennedy. And all are in agreement that his confirmation would solidify a conservative majority on the Supreme Court for the next generation or two. And we noted in our video after he was nominated that the liberal Democrats would stop at nothing to prevent him from getting confirmed. Well, now during the entire confirmation process in front of the Senate Judicial Committee, there was nothing there for the Democrats to seize upon. He's a stellar judge. He has a stellar record as one of the premier judges in the nation, being from the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. He's gone through count them six, FBI background checks and cleared them all with flying colors. He couldn't be a more vetted, qualified judge. And so to thwart this nomination, the left-wing Democrats have decided to fall back on smears and defamations and accusations of sexual assault against this man. And here's the kicker: without a shred of actual substantial evidence for such. It's the mere allegation or allegations that they believe are enough to sabotage this confirmation process. And quite frankly, each allegation that came out just got more and more bizarre. The latest now comes from a woman who's being represented by a fellow affectionately known as the porn lawyer. This is Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, who's trumpeted the so-called third accuser who is finally going to bring down Kavanaugh. And according to this accuser, Kavanaugh was actually part of a serial rape gang that went around drugging girls and then taking turns raping them. And then Senate aides confirmed that, well, actually all she was willing to actually confirm was that she saw Kavanaugh drinking, quote, excessively. I mean, these allegations have just become more and more unbelievable, more and more indicative of what we call jumping the shark, as we say here. They just got so far-fetched that they weren't even remotely believable anymore. But don't tell that to the Democrats. And don't tell that to the mainstream media, who have become willing amplifiers of this defamation insanity. What we're finding is more and more, the Democrats and the media elite are avowed cultural Marxists who believe that the world really is made up of victims on the one hand and the powerful and the manipulative who exploit those victims on the other. Women, blacks, gays, Latinos, immigrants, transgenders, they're all by definition victims of social power discrepancies that are exploited by white Christian men. I don't know how many of you heard about how Christine Ford, Kavanaugh's first accuser, how she reacted when she found out that the Republicans had hired a woman, a legal expert in sex crimes. They hired a woman to do the questioning for them, and she and her team were like, they freaked out. They said, no, we need the cameras depicting these old evil white men interrogating me. I can't have a woman doing it. And then you have the cultural Marxists in the mainstream media they actually put forward what the media presented as learned analysis, racist, completely racist marks against the Republicans on the Senate Judicial Committee, saying that Americans were going to be utterly incensed by seeing these old white men. That's been the refrain. Old white men. Ann Coulter has, in her latest article, lists out literally dozens upon dozens of quotes from these so-called pundits and commentators who make constant reference disparagingly to old white men. They've said over and over again that Americans were going to turn on Kavanaugh and the Republicans and embrace Ford simply because the Republicans are a bunch of old white men. That's called cultural Marxism. That's the belief system of the swamp, our political, economic, and media elite, who are all unified in the belief that American society is inherently racist, misogynist, homophobic, discriminatory, disenfranchising, and the guilty party to all of that are white Christian men. And so we, the enlightened cultural Marxists, are now allowed, by some strange twist of illogic, we're now allowed to be bigoted, intolerant, disparaging, and discriminating against all white men. We get to be every evil we claim they are to us. We now get to be towards them. Secular left-wing progressivism is today nothing more than justified evil. I'm going to say that again. Secular left-wing progressivism is nothing, absolutely nothing more today than justified evil. Now, I say all this because not only do I think these Democrats and their Democratic soundboard in the mainstream media, not only do I think they're wrong in terms of their assessment of Judge Brett Kavanaugh, that goes without saying. Not only that, I think they're flat out wrong in terms of their assessment of how Americans are responding to all of this. I think, far from evoking sympathy for Ford and her fellow accusers, I think this whole insane fiasco is red-pilling more people than they can imagine. Now, as a case in point, I want to bring to the witness stand, as it were, a fellow by the name of Rod Dreher. Some of you may know him. He's the author of the Benedict Option. He's interacted with some of my work in the past. Dreher was a committed never-Trumper. He hated Trump. He despised Trump. I know he dismissed my thesis that Trump represents the dawning of a post-secular age. He didn't offer anything even remotely resembling an argument. He just dismissed it. But nevertheless, he seems to have this very visceral reaction against Trump, and as a consequence against the Republican Party. So what do you know? This guy Dreher wrote a blog post the other day saying in effect that this whole insanity that has been unleashed by the Democrats against Kavanaugh has effectively, and he used the word, it has effectively red-pilled him. It has effectively red-pilled him. And what he means here is that, as he puts it, here he's watching a demonstrably decent man be disparaged and defamed for no other reason than to keep liberal power on the Supreme Court. There's no other reason on the planet. And he suddenly realizes that in the name of keeping their power, in the name of defending Roe v. Wade, there is no lie they won't tell, there's no smear they won't employ, all for the purpose of destroying a man. They don't care about him. They don't care about what this does to his family. They don't care about what it does to his children. They don't care. Because, as Dreher puts it, Kavanaugh is no longer in their eyes a human being. He's rather a symbol of everything they hate. And if they're willing to destroy this man and anyone who would get in their way, you and I are not safe from this. Now, this, of course, is similar to the whole walk away movement, where former liberal after former liberal is now testifying that they finally realized that left-wing liberals were using fear and intimidation to manipulate them, and that they were going to vote Republican for the first time in these 2018 midterms. A very similar thing's going on here with Dreher, and he cites a friend of his who personally knows Kavanaugh and supports him 1,000%. He vouches for his character absolutely, and this fellow was, like Dreher, a committed never-Trumper. And he came out and he told Dreher that this whole experience has had the effect of radicalizing him. It's red-pilled him. And he's going to vote Republican as not even a matter of principle, but flat out as a matter of protection, as a way of protecting himself from these left-wing nuts. And Dreher came out and said, you know what? It's done the same thing to him. As far as Dreher is concerned, the Republicans are now the only thing standing between him and people like him, and the destructive defaming of these left-wing radical ideologues. And he notes that he's heard from a number of others who are experiencing the very same thing. They have all been red-pilled by this Kavanaugh persecution. And so to all of those who have been effectively red-pilled by what we were seeing 2 years ago, that you guys were flat out ignoring and denying, to all of you who are now being effectively red-pilled because of all this, I say to you what Bruce Willis said in the now classic movie Die Hard, okay? Do you remember the scene? Bruce Willis is a New York cop. He's on top of the skyscraper, taking on these horrible, murderous villains like Hans, right, who've taken hostages on the top floor. And he's able to finally call the cops, and a policeman shows up in his squad car. It's Christmas Eve. The skyscraper appears to be all closed up for the holidays, and he's walking around the front entrance, just whistling Christmas tunes. Everything's fine. And he gets back into this car, intending to just drive away, when Bruce Willis, in frustration, throws down from the top floor the dead body of one of the terrorists he took out, and it lands right smack on top of the cop's windshield, and he freaks out, and he calls for backup, and he says, "We're in a war, it's a war zone, it's a war zone." And Bruce Willis yells out from above, "Welcome to the party, pal." Well, for a lot of you, the whole Brett Kavanaugh insanity is that dead body crashing through your windshield. And you're calling for backup. And all we can say, those of us who have been here since 2016, all we can say is welcome to the party, pal. Better late Trumper than never Trumper. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Click on our Patreon link below. Become a monthly supporter of this channel and help us to continue to analyze current events in light of conservative trends so that you can personally and professionally flourish. God bless.